Hello everybody, it's Katie. Today I'd like to talk to you about Quiet, The Power of Introverts in a World That Can't Stop Talking by Susan Cain. Now, I've already tried to film this review video once, and I can't really seem to be able to formulate my opinion, simply because I don't seem to be accomplished enough in the English language, or maybe it's just that today I'm having a little bit of a headache and I'm just feeling a little bit like I'm getting sick. But anyway, what I'm trying to say is, bear with me if I'm not making any sense right now, because I'm feeling like I don't when I'm talking about this book. I will also go ahead and do this a little bit differently than I would do normally. I will first list off all the things that I liked about it and then go into the criticism. What I liked about this book, that generally speaking, yes, it does what it says about introverts. Yes, it does speak about introverts. I especially found interesting the investigation of how the extroverted culture came into existence, and I liked some of the information about the neurophysiological functions of the brain of introverts versus extroverts, and some of the behavioral studies. I found them also very interesting. So now let's go into the negatives that unfortunately outweigh the positives. Now, when she was referencing the data and the studies, I found it very disappointing, or a little bit irritating almost, that she would not, say exactly where she had that data from. There were no footnotes. There were notes in the back, but I wish there were footnotes at the point where she references a specific study, so I could look it up. And I would also found that she often would draw far-fetched conclusions from insufficient data. And that is something that my scientific understanding is just not okay with. Now, the thing about studies and the thing about the interpretation of these studies, and I just did that for an entire month, is that you really have to put everything, all of the factors that influence the study, into perspective, and you have to look at every aspect of the study. You have to really look at the person, at the people that were tested, you have to look at the methods that were used, and you have to look at the circumstances that the subjects were in while they were tested. And I found that you neglected these kinds of things and therefore did not look at the data in sufficient detail, and therefore I don't think her conclusions, or some of her conclusions, are entirely, correct or are entirely valid. One of the instances that were the case, and that really rubbed me the wrong way, was when the neurophysiological chemistry of the brain was looked at. One of the things that she explores is that the amygdala, which is the part of the brain that is responsible for emotions, is more sensitive in introverts than it is in extroverts. She tries to link it with genetics. Specifically with appearance that is, transmitted through genes. So, eye color, hair color, that kind of thing. And she states that introversion, and, beforehand she goes on how introverts are, usually more intelligent and more creative and, have a lot of desirable strength. How introverts are usually more often blonde and blue-eyed. But she also states in a very small sentence at the end of this paragraph that this is a theory that has not been proven yet. Although it has been tested, there is no evidence that this is the case. And this is something that I found very irritating. When I first read it, it made me think instantly of race theory and racism. I would be very careful to talk about this kind of thing, talk about linking intelligence and personality to genetic appearance, like to appearance. So yeah, I wouldn't have put that in the book. I didn't add anything. It just made me think, is Susan Cain a racist? Another instance where this shows was where she went on describing the personality of Moses in the Bible. I don't know what she wanted to do with it. I don't know what her goal was with it exactly. I think she wanted to prove how introverts could be leaders just as well as extroverts. And she then went on interpreting the personality of Moses from the Bible. And I was just sitting there like, how about no? What she did was literary interpretation. And that is not a scientific method. It's just not. Literary interpretation is inherently subjective and therefore entirely invalid in its essence. So, yeah, no. Other things that really rubbed me the wrong way was, especially in the beginning, where she goes on criticizing the self-help culture and the economic success or the commercial success that this self-help culture has, all the while writing her own self-help book. And according to the front of it, it sold over 2 million copies, so this book is very successful in itself. And I don't think that Susan Cain complains now about the self-help culture now that she had a piece of cake. And that goes in hand with my next point of criticism, which is that she shifts the responsibility for introversion from society to the individual. Now, she talks a lot about extroverted culture and the culture of extroverts that has been coming up in America during the 20th century. And that was very interesting, but then she goes on shifting the responsibility of, being happy and being successful in this culture onto the individual. And that is just something that I don't agree with at all. I think that this is a societal problem. I think that society nowadays has a lot of problems, and one of its problems is that extroverts or the extroverted traits are more valued than introverted traits. And I think it's not the responsibility of the individual introvert to shift that. I think it needs a conscious effort of society to, value introverted traits. And I just find it very unfair to state that this is a problem of the individual. And then there's her generalization of the Asian population, which she states in her book that that is something that she actually can't really do. And that it's true, I agree. You can't just cram billions of people into one stereotype. Not all Asians are introverts, just as not all Americans are extroverts. It's just how society values these two things is very different. And I'm not even sure if that is still the case, or if she is just, if she's just very unaware of, cultural changes, and just if she just wants to look at Asia through this stereotypical lens that filters out everything that just doesn't go along with her worldview. I don't know. Now there are a few points that I want to criticize of her writing. One of them is that she tends to repeat herself. Another thing is that she really she has a knack for packaging nice quotable sentences that are just showing these flashy results of these false conclusions that she drew from insufficient data. So there's that. I want to criticize her rhetoric that she uses in terms of coming out as an introvert, which is a phrase that is commonly used when talked about sexuality. And I don't think these are two things that can go alongside each other and that can be compared to each other, because coming out as an introvert is just not something that is on the same level. It's really not comparable with, for instance, coming out as homosexual. And I just do not enjoy that rhetoric being used in this context. I already stated my opinion pretty clearly, I think, but I really want to say that I was very, very disappointed with this book. I had expected a lot more, and I had expected to learn a lot more about extroverts and introverts. What I really found disappointing especially was the focus on corporate America. This book felt like it was written for rich white people. I don't know if Susan Cain is just very unaware of basically everything, or if she's just, but it felt like she was looking at the world through a very narrow lens, and I just find that very, very sad, to be honest, and also a little bit troubling. According to the 2 million copies that were sold of it, I hope really that people are reading this critically. I gave this book 2 stars. I think it was okay. It didn't really do what I was expecting of it, and I really think that if you're reading it, I'm urging you to read this critically. Please go into this book keeping in mind that you need to question her methods, the rhetoric that she uses, and just her awareness of everything. It's just, this woman seems to me like she grew up in a little bubble and just has never looked beyond that bubble. And I find that very, very, very sad. Yeah. Now I do think that this book is fairly popular, at least according to the sales of it. So if you have a different opinion than I do, then please go ahead and enjoy your life. But I think really that this book is one that needs to be criticized. Alright, that was it for today, fellow bookworms. I hope you enjoyed this video. Have you read Quiet? Please tell me what you thought of it in the description, in the comments below. Other than that, I hope you have an awesome day. I hope you're reading something magical and wonderful, and I will see you soon. Bye! Of course, there has to be a buzz now when I say bye. Of course, there has to. Bye.